The Radiotrola Entertainment Podcast Channel.
I'm Eric Paul Johnson, and welcome to the Radiotrola Entertainment Podcast Channel 2025 preview. We've got some changes coming up to our schedule next year, and in this show, we'll tell you what's staying, what's going, and what's coming to replace what's going.
Sunday.
Staying right where it is, America's Top 40s, where I count down the top 40 songs and play snippets of the hits from that week 66 years ago. And why 66 years ago? Because as it was explained in the first episode of America's Top 40s, like Casey Kasem's American Top 40, it pulls its top 40 songs from Billboard's Hot 100 chart. And that started on August 4th, 1958. So this year, we're moving on into the big hits of 1959. You can look forward to the Chipmunks, Frankie Avalon, and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I'm not kidding. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir had a hit in 1959. Welcome to America's Top 40s. I'm Eric Paul Johnson, and I'll be counting down the top 40 songs for the week of September 21st, 1959. If I knew this was coming, I would have included it in my rant about Sam Cooke. The second highest debuting song of the week, giving more evidence that 1959 was a terrible year for the pop chart. At number 29, Battle Hymn of the Republic by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. The highest debuting song of the week moves up 31 to number 28. Mary Lou by Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks.
She took my diamond ring. She took my watch and chain. She took the
Brooke Benton drops 11 to number 27 with Thank You Pretty Baby.
I want to thank your folks for making you so divine.
Monday.
Eric Winsensen's podcast, What Came Next, ... will hold its place on Mondays.
There are those albums that are artistic, critical, and commercial milestones. They are generally agreed to be the pinnacles of an artist's career. This is not about those albums. This is about what came next. Partially due to their good looks and a series of videos directed by Russell Mulcahy, Duran Duran went from being a moderately successful band playing off the new romantic style established by David Bowie on his 1980 album Scary Monsters and Super Creeps to international stars by 1982. Their second album, Rio, was one of the top-selling albums of the year. This, unfortunately, meant some trouble for the band in the UK, as income taxes for the highest percentage earners were prohibitive, leading the band to go into tax exile status to avoid losing much of their earnings. Other problems, such as artistic tensions within the band and substance abuse, arose as well as the young men dealt with sudden fame and fortune and an exhaustive touring schedule. The band was under pressure to produce another album that matched both the musical quality and sales of Rio, with the added need to get something out quickly to remain relevant both on radio and MTV. What EMI and Capitol Records did as a stopgap measure was re-release the band's 1981 debut, Duran Duran, restoring the UK running order of the songs for the US, but removing To the Shore and substituting a new song, Is There Something I Should Know.
Tuesday.
Chart Trivia Minute posted its last episode on December 31st. And taking its place will be a new show called Waxy Build-Up. I'm Eric Paul Johnson, and welcome to Waxy Build-Up, a podcast covering the earliest recordings from the 1880s to the late 1920s. And if you're wondering why I picked that time period to do a podcast about, well, a lot of great recordings were made during that time. But it's so long ago that most people don't even know them. They've never heard them. They just vanished in the midst of history, and only music nerds like me only know just even a fraction of all these great songs that came out. So I would like to put these songs back out in the public consciousness, have people hear them, and get to know the music and the comedy bits and the spoken word stuff that built the recording industry. Oh, and also, public domain, bitches. I don't have to get rights or clearances from anybody, put this stuff on a podcast, or worry about, oh geez, is this going to get me shut down? Now, if you're still not sold on the podcast, maybe this recording from 1906 will seal the deal.
I am the Edison phonograph, created by the great wizard of the New World to delight those who would have melody or be amused. I can sing you tender songs of love. I can give you merry tales and joyous laughter. I can transport you to the realms of music. I can cause you to join in the rhythmic dance. I can lull the babe to sweet repose, or waken in the aged heart soft memories of youthful days. No matter what may be your mood, I am always ready to entertain you. The more you become acquainted with me, the better you will like me. Ask the dealer. Look out for Jimmy Valentine, for he's a pal of mine, a sentimental crook, with a touch that lingers in his hand. Paper fingers, he can find a combination of your pocketbook. Look out, look out, look out, look out, for when you see his lantern shine, that's the time to jump right up and shout, help! He'd steal a horse and cart, he'd even steal a girl's heart when Jimmy Valentine gets out.
And now it's time for the Century Smash Hits segment of the show. These are the songs that entered the pop chart 100 years ago this week, January 10th, 1925. And first up is The Pal That I Loved Stole the Gal That I Loved by Louis James. It spent 2 weeks on the chart and got to number 8.
I met a downhearted lad. He had a tear in his eye. I wondered why he was so sad. Then he whispered to me with a sigh, the pal that I loved stole the gal that I loved and took all my sunshine and joy.
Wednesday.
Well, Christmas is over. So our podcast, Christmas Carol Catastrophes, has been packed in a box and will come back after Thanksgiving 2025. But to fill that spot, we've got a new show called Eric vs. Eric. In our pre- and post-show discussions while recording the ELO podcast, Eric Winsenson and me, Eric Paul Johnson, get into conversations that have nothing to do with ELO, but are still fun to listen to. And that's what Eric vs. Eric will be. No set topic, no set subject. It's witty banter, witty discussion. Sometimes there's a subject for that show, sometimes there's not. We'll see what happens. It's free-form discussion about anything that pops into our heads. Something sort of like this. The only Purple Socks thing I know is that Donny Osmond had a thing for them on his TV show in the 70s, because I used to watch the Donny and Marie TV show there on ABC when I was 7 or 8. And
Yeah.
apparently Donny had a thing for purple socks. Not really a kink, is more of a fashion thing that he liked. I guess to show how wild and Mormon he could be. Look at me, purple socks. It's crazy.
Yep.
They're not white. They're that crazy purple color.
I even warmed up the milk.
Whoa.
Oh, you don't drink it cold?
You're
Oh,
a rebel,
boy.
Donnie.
You're a little bit rock and roll.
He sure is. Very,
I
very little bit. Yeah.
always dread when I get records from somebody I know is a smoker.
Yeah.
It takes it forever for that odor to get out of those things.
It really does.
Weed, for some reason, doesn't stick around.
One time I spent a couple days over with Kate. Spent the night. Before I get any ideas, Kate is a friend. Used to go by Mike. I think you can figure out the rest after that. So there was no someone I'm dating in high school. You know, friends goofing around, having fun, making music and doing that kind of stuff. And she gave me her jacket. And it was a jacket she used to wear back in 84. It's 1985. She gave it to me. And when I came home, my parents kind of looked at each other, and I just went to my room, as I always do. And they, knock on the door, and they come in, and they sit down and have a talk with me and said, "We noticed that there was a strong odor of marijuana when you came home. Did you and Mike smoke any marijuana?" No, we didn't. You should know me by now. I know Mike's the ringleader, the bad influence, which he wasn't. He's just funny, outgoing. Well, if you've all listened to the Best of Mike and Eric podcast, you'll see what Mike was like. We didn't drink. We didn't do drugs. We didn't smoke. We were good. It's just that Mike sometimes is goofy to the point where the goofiness can lead to something stupid, but nothing with drugs or anything. So I was mad. I was like, how could you think that? No, we didn't do that. And then I go over and I pick up the jacket that Kate gave me and I smelled it. Oh. So at school the next day, I asked about that. And she told me she spent the day at her dad's house and her dad really liked to smoke the weed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that thing went in the wash as soon as I could. Oh, yeah, this has to go in the washing machine.
No, I was thinking the story was going to go, Eric, when you came home, there was a very heavy smell of marijuana. And we're very upset with you because your dad and I were wondering why you didn't offer us any. It's the polite thing to do.
I do remember times when I was very young. Occasionally my dad would smoke a joint. Hey, where'd you
a
get this?
biker smoked a joint?
I know, right? In the early 70s?
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my weed talk with my parents story. It's the only one we had because I never did drugs, I never drank, I never smoked. My rebellion was long hair and doing a snarky underground newspaper.
And both of them sitting there going, it's your side of the family, isn't it?
Probably closer to my dad's side. I mean, his side of the family had the writers and the journalists, the more creative types. I don't know why my dad didn't get that. I mean, he can write. He's not really quite the creative genius that I obviously am. At least he didn't spend a lot of time doing music and writing and cartooning and all that kind of stuff like I did.
Where did the wild sibling pop out of?
Back to planned versus unplanned.
That one was planned?
Yes. And my sister will sometimes bring up, well, I was planned. And I will say, well, your example of the 6 Ps don't always work out right. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yes.
She's definitely more like my dad. And like maybe my dad's parents, because boy, did they smoke. All the warnings, all the family members around them getting health-related issues with smoking didn't stop them. Man, I do not miss the early 70s going over to their house.
Yeah.
Because everybody on my dad's side, except for my dad, smoked. So when we go over to Nana and Papa's for big old get-togethers, all the brothers and their wives and their girlfriends would be there. And everybody except for my mom and dad are smoking. And in the 70s, they didn't go outside to do it.
No.
The
ashtray was sitting there on the table in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just trying to avoid the stream of smoke coming out of somebody's mouth.
Well, and you can't, because all that secondhand smoke is just filling the entire house. So there's no escape other than to go outside. And the TV isn't outside, so I'm a kid. I gotta be where the TV is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My grandmother had to give up smoking in her 70s.
Mm. Yeah.
70s or 80s, I still have no idea how she made it to 99.
Again, back to my friend with the weed jacket. Her grandmother, I never saw her without a cigarette in her mouth. She lived deep into her 80s, but her great-grandmother also lived with her. And while she didn't smoke, constant stream of secondhand smoke, and she died 5 days short of 100. The gene pool in that family, there's some tough genetics to be around all that and live close to 100.
Yeah, and my genetic mother barely reached 70 before she passed away. So,
Yeah.
And she was a heavy smoker too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad it never caught me.
Yeah. Well, my dad said he stopped smoking because pushing his dirt bike one day because it crapped out, and he's just wheezing. And then he also said, well, because now I'm in the house. He's like, all right, I got to stop smoking. So.
Yeah. No, my dad stopped smoking about 1980 because all his friends were starting to stop. But he smoked a pipe, so it wasn't that as bad as cigarettes.
I guess.
At least it smelled decent, but yeah, he decided, he didn't want to be addicted to it forever.
Yeah.
So he didn't die of lung cancer.
Oh, well, there's that.
He died of a different cancer, but didn't die of lung cancer.
Well, my Uncle Stephen, my dad's brother, he died when he was 47, and he'd been smoking for 30-something years. So when I made it past 47, I was glad, even though I thought it helped in my favor that I never smoked. My Uncle Buddy, also my dad's brother, 55, he lived off a steady diet of cigarettes and soda. And yet my sister still carries on. She's been smoking since 1987.
And Mike's dead.
And Mike!
Not your Mike, but Mike Stevens. A guy we know named Mike Stevens. Yeah, he smoked constantly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the smoking that killed him. I mean, he was going to die of liver damage because of his drinking, but what killed him was bumping his head, I think.
I think so.
What ultimately got him.
Yeah, and he was younger than me. He was your age.
Yeah.
And
no, he's a year younger than me.
Oh, a year younger than you. Yeah.
Yeah, a year younger than me. Yeah.
And I miss him. I miss his snarky political posts on Facebook. Those were great. Yeah. So
I miss his writing.
Yes, absolutely.
I miss a lot of his writing. Because, that's why I always admired him was he actually was really good. And unfortunately, like most people who were really good, you never hear about them.
Yeah.
Some people are really good, you get popular, but most of them, especially poets, you never hear of them unless they've been dead for 100 years or so.
So lesson here, don't smoke, drink, or bash your head on the curb of a sidewalk if you want a long life.
I think he bashed his head on this wall accidentally going to bed one night. But he fell down on the sidewalk too.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times, but sober.
Yeah. Just don't bash your head. That should help a lot. All right. Now we're going to get cut off. And there's a nice teaser for the Eric versus Eric podcast.
Yes, there is. Yeah. See you next week.
Yep. There's still more changes coming to the Radiotrola Entertainment Podcast Channel schedule. So stick around. We'll tell you about it after I make a few cents from these commercials that Podbean is going to stick in here.
Thursday.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas are over. So no more holiday old-time radio shows. At least not until October again. Taking its place will be the 6-Minute Critic. A couple years before I started doing the Electric Light Orchestra podcast, I did a segment on a friend's Jonathan Brandmeier podcast doing movie reviews. And these weren't recent movies, these were old movies. Because I can't afford to pay tickets to go see new movies. I'm a podcaster. What kind of money do you think I'm bringing in here? Even back then, I was making even less. So I found movies that you could watch for free on YouTube, on Amazon Prime, before Amazon Prime started charging for everything, on top of their regular fee, or you could download for free at archive.org, or go to the library and check them out at the library. And I let my thoughts on those movies fly. Here's your premise for a movie. Take the music of the most popular band ever, build a movie around what is universally considered to be the best album ever, and cast it with the biggest names in music and all forms of entertainment. What could possibly go wrong?
This isn't some dumb question, is it?
It's the 1978 Crime Against the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Oh my God!
What was the point of making this movie? For the last 90 minutes of it, I kept asking myself, why? Is there any reason whatsoever this movie should exist? This movie serves as a warning to others. Do not ever think you can take the Beatles' work and match or outdo them. You will be crushed as a result of your hubris, and your shame and humiliation will live on throughout history of humanity. This movie is the severed heads on spikes outside of a castle. This movie plays out like one of those atrocious 2-hour 70s variety TV specials.
This show sucks.
If you want to hear the Bee Gees remake a bunch of Beatles songs, and honestly, who wouldn't?
Are you quite finished with your joke?
Then sure, go to the library and check out Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But remember, I and the severed heads outside the castle warned you.
It's pretty stupid.
Friday.
The last episode of the Best of Mike and Eric posted on December 13th. And taking its place in 2025 will be the Best of the Eric Paul Johnson Radiotrola program. It's my first podcast series that ran from 2010 to 2017. The first 8 months of it sucked, so you're not going to hear much from those years, but after that, things got way much better and way much funnier.
The legends foretold he would come. A simple man, with naught but a life-size latex Yoda and an 8th grade education. A man whose finger is pressed roughly against the fulcrum of American thought. A man who sits side-saddle astride a pale horse named the Zeitgeist, on a one-man mission to lead mankind out of the wilderness. Brace yourself now as you bear the full brunt of the awesome intellect and terrifying ideas of Eric Paul Johnson.
I think that one needs just a tiny bit more work.
It's Friday, September 24th, 2021, and this is the Eric Paul Johnson Radiotrola program.
It's pretty stupid.
You know how when you hear the news that your favorite band that has been broken up for years, even decades, gets back together, and you get all excited? Oh my God, this is fantastic. I've been waiting 15, 25 years for them to get back together, and here we go. We're going to have a brand new album from Spleen Purge. I can't wait. These guys have been great. I've been following them since I was a teenager. So you get all excited. You get all keyed up. Oh boy, this is going to be great. This is going to be wonderful. You even go to one of those websites to set up a countdown clock. You set things up on your iPod or your Apple Watch or your calendar to bing up with some sort of notice that today's the day, a brand new album by the reunited Spleen Purge. Oh my God, this is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait.
It was a dream come true.
And then the day comes. Here it is. It's Tuesday. And your new album comes out. Spleen Purge. This is going to be great. And it's not an album. It's a single. Just one song by Spleen Purge.
Ah, crap!
And to make it worse, it's not just a single. It's the new song on yet another greatest hits compilation.
Jesus Christ!
And they have it rigged up at iTunes and Amazon and wherever you buy your music, that you cannot get that song unless you buy the compilation album.
Oh, God, this sucks.
You're a big Spleen Purge fan. You already have like 10 or 20 compilations, greatest hits packages. I don't need another one. But you need that song, that stupid song. And to make it worse, it's not exactly Spleen Purge. The whole band didn't get back together. What it is it's the lead singer. He had the rights to use the name Spleen Purge, so he did. Because even though Archibald Whizbang was the lead singer and the face of Spleen Purge, outside of the Spleen's fan base, nobody knows who Archibald Whizbang is, and the name Archibald Whizbang isn't going to sell as many records as Spleen Purge. So what Archibald did was just record a solo song and release it under the name Spleen Purge. And there's your Spleen Purge reunion. One song done by the lead singer and no other members of Spleen Purge.
I'm in no mood for your nincompoopity.
That's really pretty much what we've got right here. A Radiotrola minicast. Don't get too excited. It's one segment. It's not a full hour. It's not even going to be a full half-hour show. Just one segment, and then one and done.
You're doing this out of the goodness of your own slimy little coal-colored heart.
Saturday.
And of course on Saturdays will be the podcast this entire channel was built on. Face the Music, a pre-ELO song-by-song podcast. We're running out of move songs, so this is going to be the last season of the pre-ELO podcast. Whether we go on to do a concurrent ELO podcast, covering the songs that were made by members of ELO outside of ELO, I don't know yet. It could happen, it could not happen. I'll tell you one thing that could convince me to do a concurrent ELO podcast. Money. A big influx of money. You want to donate or PayPal or whatever, $4,000 a month? You're damn right I'm going to keep doing this ELO podcast. I'm going to drain that well until there's nothing left but air. And even then, I'll find a way to make an ELO podcast out of that if people are giving me $4,000 a month. Because, see, I got to split it up with the others, too. So, $1,000 a month for me would cover my bills and would keep the ELO podcast going. And I'd be very happy. But here's a snippet of one of the upcoming episodes for the pre-ELO podcast. That's the slog that this song was. It could have been a good song. Not a great song, but it could have been a good song if it was 5 minutes shorter. But it's not. If you've heard the first 30 seconds of when the band starts playing in, even though I think it's just Jeff and Roy, then you've heard the other 7.5 minutes. This is another one of my beefs with long songs. I mean, at least with Open the Door, the planet wants to come in and crash for the night, or whatever it was. At least it did this part for 2 minutes, then it went into a different part, and then it went into a different part. When it got set in its ways, at least it decided, now we're going to do this, and went off in a different direction. Still don't like the song, but still, this is it. Near the first 30 seconds, there's really no reason to listen to the other 7.5 minutes.
But what about the crumhorn solo?
Oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. The friggin' oboes again.
And that's not an oboe. That's a
crumhorn. Whatever. I mean, at least this time they don't have that fader pushed all the way up to the top. And it's not blasting in your ear. At least it's mixed down in there, so it's not just punched into your ear with a hammer.
But there's your favorite guitar tone again, too.
Yeah, that's in there, too.
But there's no sitar.
No, there's no sitar. There is a bit wah-wah in here, guitar solo, but it doesn't need to be there. I mean, it's pretty much the last 5 minutes of the song is a lot of stuff that didn't need to be there. I mean, I like the drums. I like when things started going. But when it keeps going the same thing for 8 minutes, it's just, you don't need it. I think the best thing about this song is, this is it. This is the last long move song.
Well, then there's the Duke of Edinburgh's Lettuce.
That's 1:17. That's sweet relief. That's like when you get to the car, and then you can turn on the air conditioner and sit for a minute and just, that was a bad idea to add an extra mile to my walk. But I can deal with this part here.
Well, I really liked how it started out. I like Roy's bass line on this.
Yeah.
You're right, it is Roy and Jeff, with a couple backup singers. No Bev, no Rick, just Jeff and Roy. So, I'm going to have a few things to say about that in a moment, too. Yeah, I liked how it started out. Roy's vocals were okay. The song itself, there's not really much substance to it. It's a typical, hey baby, how about it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Nothing big there, just some usual lines just to fill in space and have vocals. And it has a nice blues feel to it. And as it gets in, the vocals get better, and I like the backup vocals. I really like that part. I do like the Krumhorn part because you're right. That's one of the reasons I like it is because it's not in one speaker blaring. He doesn't try to do a whole blast of notes with it. He just holds some whole notes and uses it for texture, and it works because it's kind of mixed under everything else. So I didn't mind the song, but I am with you on length on this one. It seems like it's a jam session. Doesn't seem like it's planned like the other ones where, I mean, it still has the same structure as some of the other longer move songs, but it doesn't seem like it's insert here, insert there. It sounds more like they're bored in the studio. They came up with a typical blues rock jam and didn't know how to end it because at the end, all of a sudden, it just kind of fizzles.
It just stops.
Yeah, there's no planned ending to it. It just kind of, here we are.
There you go. That's what you can expect from the first half of 2025 here at the Radiotrola Entertainment Podcast Channel. And all of these shows can be heard exclusively at ftmelo.podbean.com. Except for the ELO podcast. You can hear that at Podbean, and you can also hear it at the Electric Light Orchestra Podcast Channel over at YouTube. You can financially support the podcast through our Patreon, patreon.com/ELOpod. There's also PayPal using the email address eloftmpodcast@gmail.com, or you can send check or money orders or just big bundles of cash in boxes to P.O. Box 1932, Superior, Arizona 85173. Oh, and there's also a Patreon for my comic strip that I drew from 1986 to 2009. Patreon.com/LNTCS. You get my comic strips sent to you every day in your email, plus there's commentary from me about each strip, and some disclaimers, and some things to apologize for too. But you get it all, $4 a month. Hey, add that to the money that would be coming in from the podcast. And if the podcasts and the comic strips are pulling in $2,000 to $4,000 a month, yeah. The ELO podcast will continue, but that's up to your donations. So I hope you had a good Christmas, and let's hope to God we all survive 2025.
Now Hedda Hopper, then Carousel with Cornell Wilde.